Well, welcome back to another live stream. It has been a windy day. So actually, I can hear the wind out there now. During the day today, our little kitty plastic pool blew from the backyard behind the shed to the front yard. It's been quite a day. So, but the wind blew us into a Tuesday live here on January 9th. I can see the date right there on the screen behind me, and it is good to be with you guys tonight. I have covered this topic that we're going to talk about tonight before, but I have to be honest with you. I always felt like I didn't really put 100% of the effort into it. And because I'm getting more and more people reaching out to me on the channel because of my ATEM Mini Getting Started video, Mini Pro Getting Started video series, lots of people are finding it. It's such a good deal right now, the ATEM Mini Pro. And so I'm really concerned that there's lots of people out there that are starting to live stream that do not know the differences between what you get in the ATEM Mini line. And really the ATEM Mini line nowadays is the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and then the SDI ISO model. So they've kind of shaved it down to the ones that record and stream. In fact, I think if we go to Blackmagic's site right now, let's just go there and then I'll say hi here in a second. Let's just get this ready to go here. We're going to bring this page up. And I'll go to me and my laptop here. So sharing the opposite screens tonight. So let me move this over here. I reversed this for a client and did not change it back for tonight. So if you click right here, so if you're on products and you click on the third selection here, this will take you to the ATEMs, and you can see now you have the ATEM Mini Pro. It's $295 now, which was the price of the old Mini. Then you have the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and then you bust into the Extreme model. And this is the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And then you get down here, you have the ATEM Mini SDI, the ATEM Mini SDI Pro ISO, and the ATEM SDI Extreme ISO. So I don't even see the Extreme here on the list. I'm sure there's still places that have it, but obviously Blackmagic Design is making some focus changes. And I know it's because that ATEM Mini's been out since, I believe, either late 2018 or early 2019. I'm not quite sure. But so tonight's stream is going to be dedicated towards those people out there that are wondering what is the difference between the ATEM Mini, the smaller lines, and or the smaller lines. So it would be the Pro and the Pro ISO, and then the SDI Pro ISO model. And then you have the Extremes. Now I'm not getting into some of these other devices, and we'll just throw those up on the screen. So I just want to make this very clear. I'm not touching on any of the ATEM Television Studio HDs. And you can see there are 3 models there available. You have the HD, the HD ISO, and then the 4K. And then you have all of the constellations. You have the ATEM 1ME. Lots and lots of people, even here on the channel, have been buying the ATEM 2ME. And then you have the ATEM 4ME. That's what Aaron Parecki now has in his studio. And then you have the ATEM 4ME Constellation 4K. And then you have the 8K. Then all of these consoles, the older versions, coloring, and just lots of things available in the hierarchy of the Blackmagic Design products. So let's do this. Let's put chat on the air. We don't want that. Let's go chat off the air. What have I done here? Let me fix this. Chat. Let's select one of these early in tonight. Yeah, chat on the air. We have Hank in the house. It's good to have you. Hank is saying, hi, Keith. I'll be with you in just 3 hours, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We are currently experiencing a severe thunderstorm on the East Coast for the next few hours. Yeah, I've heard about the crazy weather over on the coast. I have friends over there, so hopefully everybody's safe. Let's fire up some better glasses tonight because I do not have my prompter. I do have a new prompter coming in the mail. It says it's been shipped, and that should arrive here on Thursday. It says in my tracking. We'll see if that happens. And then I'm going to do a little comparison of that device, two of them in the studio at the same time, one with a camera mount on it on the front of a lens, and then the other one, I'm going to swap out some different webcams I have here in the studio, and we're going to demo that, and I'm going to actually have those two facing each other. So it's going to be kind of a fun video, and then I'll send the other one back. I'm doing that just because I'm missing one step-up ring. They neglected to send me all of the rings that come with it, and what the rings are. There's one right here, but this is a step-up ring, and this is designed for an 82 millimeter lens, and it just screws on the threads on the lens, and then the prompter slides right over it. And so we, before I send that back, I'll probably have both of those here in the stream next week so we can talk about the prompter again. But I'm loving this, not using it tonight, decided to go without it. Also wanted to talk about the step-up ring. So I got two 62s and didn't get a 67, if I remember right. So I'm getting a whole new kit in the mail this week so I can get one step-up ring out of it. And then I'm going to send the whole thing back with two 62 millimeter step-up rings. So again, that's coming, so that will be exciting. And I know that the reason I thought of that prompter is because I know Hank has been talking about the one that he's waiting for that he has ordered. So it's good to have you in the house tonight, Hank. Hope you're still on with me right now. And then we have my fave tech in the ATEM Mini Extreme. Is the ATEM Mini Extreme worth it, or could you just use the Mini Pro paired with a vMix work better? Gosh, that is a great question. So vMix obviously is software that you can use on your PC. I think it's Mac as well. And so vMix will let you do all the graphics and all that stuff inside. Obviously, when you have an ATEM, the newer ATEMs, you're streaming from them or you're streaming out of a web presenter. And that's kind of what's happening now with the ATEM Mini lineup, or just the Blackmagic design switchers. Pretty much all of them now that you're going to probably be able to buy this next year are going to encode, stream, and record. Some of them record ISO, some of them record 4K now. But all the ATEM Mini lineup, what we're going to talk about tonight, they're all HD, and they all the ones we're talking about tonight, all encode. They all record. Some of them record every single input, and some of them don't, just the program out. But we're going to be talking about what are the differences between the ATEM Minis. That would be like, tonight we're going to talk about the Mini Pro ISO, and I have a Pro in my studio. And the only difference is between those two items is the Pro ISO will record every input. It'll make an XML file. It'll keep all the media player stills that you used in that mix that night, all in a folder, and then you could remix it using DaVinci Resolve, even the free version. So then also I have two Extreme ISOs, ATEM Mini Extreme ISOs in my studio. We're going to compare the ISO. We're going to talk about what you get if you go from the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini Pro ISO up to the SDI ISO. And obviously the major difference is going to be the inputs, but we're going to talk about what some of the other differences are if you go to either one of those in the Extreme line or in the Mini Pro ISO line. So we'll get back to that as we go through the chat. So it's good to have you here, my Fav. And my answer to that question is, if you said just use an ATEM Mini Extreme, that is great to stream live. I would probably just learn to use it. You could also bring it in to your computer if you wanted to. You could use a cam link. You could use some other device. Blackmagic Design has the web presenter, but in reality, if you want to use vMix, you're going to have to bring it into your computer. And the biggest reason that I stream from my ATEMs, and the biggest reason why most of the people that I listen to stream from those devices or any other device that can code and stream, is because you want to use your laptop or your PC or your Mac, whatever it is, you want to use it for everything else. Like tonight, I'm going to be surfing the web. I'm running a Skycam. I'm running chat. All of that's running off of my laptop and my PC tonight. And I really don't want to be encoding or streaming. That's why I use OBS before I go live, but I don't use OBS live. I could bring in slides from OBS. I've done that before. And so vMix would be a great tool. So if you had your computer coming out, the HDMI out into your ATEM Extreme, then yeah, you would be able to bring in videos from vMix. You'd be able to bring in guests from vMix. You could use Zoom to bring guests in. You can go over and check out Joe's new channel. Let me just get the name of Joe's channel here real quick. I was just watching this video yesterday. Where is it? Let's go back. Let's go here. He has a video that he just did on a device that he created for the new Zoom ISO features, which are only Mac specific. I'm just looking for Joe's video here. Let me go to recent emails. Should have been better prepared to share this. Oh, there's his email. Well, if you guys have the name of his new channel, would you pop it in the chat? Because I'm getting every other kind of link here from him. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, these are all older emails for some reason. So anyway, Joe is not currently, let me see. He's not currently in the chat, is he? We'll come back to that. Let me just say hi to everybody else here before I get so sidetracked on questions. Good to have you here tonight, David, as usual. It's good to see you. I think you get the attendance award recently. There it is, Streaming CT. That is Joe's new site, and you can go over and subscribe to that, and he's got some great videos over there. His studio is a little bit higher tech than mine in some regards. He's now using the 2ME. He has a new ISO rack mounting computer, network computer that he's put together using a Mac Mini, the new version, the new Mac Mini 2 Pro. He has 2 DeckLink cards in it. Great video of how that went together, so check out his channel. So that's a great device because you can use the DeckLink cards to assign those SDIs as outputs or inputs. And he has 2 of them, so he's going to be able to do lots of things with his 2ME. It's an SDI device. The cards are SDIs, so he just has to run SDI cables now. He doesn't have to do any conversion. If he has a HyperDeck, he can run 2 SDIs into his 2ME. The only time you're going to have to convert would be if you're coming in from a camera that has HDMI out, then that's going to have to be converted. And so you're going to be converting SDI to HDMI or HDMI to SDI either way if you're getting high tech in your studio. So we'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons of SDI and SDI devices a little bit later as we talk about the benefits if you go to SDI ATEMs. So again, good to have you here, Hank. And let's see, who else do we have here? DJ Ware, it's great to have you here in the live stream tonight. And I will review what we're going to do here again in a minute. Enjoyed the video on the Epiphan Connect and Streaming CT video. Looked great. I think that's in regards to Streaming CT's new video. I think it came out today. There's a thank you back. Who made the intro music? That is from my collection here. Let's go into my drive and my music. Let's see. It's called Full Nice Summer Mood. And I'm just looking for It's Premium Beat, and I license my music from them. So let me bring them up here on the screen. Bring this back over. So this is Premium Beat site. This is not a sponsored video, but in reality, this is where I've been getting all my music for my clients. There's Epidemic Sound music that's available for subscription. Here I can just go buy a track. So check that out. I think I'm averaging like 49 bucks. I've never had a flag. I don't even have to post the contractual information. They keep a record of who has their tracks. They have all of the rights to the music. And so you can buy 2 different levels of license for just YouTube, social media. It's about 49 bucks. And then if you want to use the track for a licensed commercial, advertisement, things like that, that's going to go all over a commercial or on television, then they have a different licensing structure for that. They do give you your license information. You can now post that in your YouTube videos if you so desire. But again, that is where that track comes from. And again, the title of that track. Here, let me exit out of this. Don't you dare lock up my computer tonight. It, again, is called, my other track that I was using for Christmas. Let me bring this up here again. It was called Santa, If You're Listening. And so that's one of the tracks I've used here on my channel. Let's go back up here. And then Full Nice Summer Mood, I believe, is the track I'm using right now. And that's written by just someone that produces music for online. So, okay. Let me put chat back on the air. Let's drag this stuff back over here out of my way. Should have closed some stuff tonight before I went live. Okay, so let's get back in here and finish staying high. Said hi to David. Said hi to DJ Ware. Gio Walker, it's good to have you. You bought the ATEM Mini Pro ISO because it was on sale. And at that time, I bought it. Yeah, and it's a great device. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's good to have you here, Doug, tonight. Good evening back to you. I appreciate you being here, as always. Let's see. Anybody else? Been missing Freddie. So say a word of encouragement or prayer to him if you have access to him. He said he was running a really crazy fever a couple weeks ago, and I haven't heard from him. I'm hoping that Freddie would drop in the live stream tonight, but we'll see, just to see if he's doing okay. Okay, so I think I caught DJ Ware. Here is that link that he popped in the chat. So you can go over and check out Joe's channel and learn about what he's doing, building his studios, running a business now, going to be able to bring in Zoom guests, both in studio and remotely. He's very knowledgeable about SRT and all of the other ways of streaming through the web. So you should go check that out. He and Tony have done some collaborations from Quick Tech Solutions. And again, I don't see Tony in the chat tonight. I don't see TVJ either. I know Jay has been streaming on Tuesday nights now, so a little competition, but that's just perfectly fine. I get it. Got to find a night where people are going to listen and find a night where you can stream. So let me do this and make a little introduction here. So tonight we're going to talk about 7 major differences between the smaller ATEMs and the larger ATEMs. We're also going to talk about a bonus audio edition that's available. We're going to talk about some buttons that changed. I have 8 slides that we're going to cover tonight. And I want to talk about the software As we're doing this, I am going to change the monitor look behind me to program so I can see a fuller screen up here. So, but if you looked at tonight's slide before we went live, it looked like this. So this is tonight's live slide, and I think I can go just me and a slideshow here. Let me do that. Where is it? Slideshow and me. So this is pretty much the still image for tonight that you guys saw in the roll in, and you can see there, there's one little audio bonus we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the SDI bonuses that you get, how to choose. I'm going to talk about 5 questions that you should be asking before you buy if you haven't already bought. And I would still ask the same questions before you update, just FYI. So we're going to bust through these slides and talk about these. And that way, if you want to watch this back later, I'll be able to put chapter markers. And I apologize, I still have not put chapter markers in last week's video. I just have had some crazy things come up, haven't been able to get to it, but my goal is last week's video to put some associate links from Amazon. So if you use those, you support the channel, and I appreciate that. We do get a kickback from Amazon, so keep that in mind anytime you use the associate links, but also to be able to have chapter markers in there so you can go back and review last week's video, because I talked about 24 things, tools, tips for 2024, because I really wanted to talk about some of the things I've learned last couple of years, mostly last year, new devices, tips and tricks. And I even learned something this week that I'd completely forgotten. And so it motivated me to do a video. The video is like 99% done. I think it's going to launch tomorrow, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. So back to slideshow and me. So we're going to talk about, again, 7 major differences between these, a bonus when it comes to the SDI models, as well as 1 audio bonus. And there's some other things that are going to show up. There's more than 7 things that are different between these devices. And they're going to show up in my very last slide, which is talking about the buttons when we look at the front of the new Extreme ISO, and the SDI Extreme ISO. But in reality, they're not so major that I made a big deal about them, but they do help you run certain things from the front of the device. And that seems to be some of the focus when Blackmagic Design decided to go from the little ATEMs to the bigger ATEMs. And if you don't know the size comparison, let's just do it on the desk here right now. Let's turn off that. So here you go. You have the Mini and you have a Extreme, and that's the size comparison. So here's my hand, here's my hand. So in reality, if you measure this from this edge, it comes just barely into the 5. So this is that much bigger. And if you measure this way, it's about this much bigger or taller, and it's this much wider. Put that on camera. So about that much taller based on my hand. And again, about that much taller. So quite a bit of difference between those devices. So we're going to talk about the differences of those. I want to take you through this as systematically as we possibly can. And we're going to do that here in just a minute. Let's see if anybody else has popped in the chat, so we can say a hello. Good to have you here. Rezen Cuero, I can't sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Hi, Keith, watching here from Perth, Australia. It's good to have you from Perth. My Fave Tech, wanted to see which one works best to do online interviews, as I live in the suburbs and most of my contacts are downtown or other states. Do you still have to use a separate software? And I'm assuming that you're talking about using the ATEMs. If you get an Extreme, you still want to have the software open. So I would say that maybe one of the disadvantages of the ATEM Mini Obviously the original ATEM Mini, then the ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. The disadvantages of those is you really can't run them very easily and do much with them without a laptop with you, and that's probably what you're going to take. You might put a PC in a rack, or might take an M2 with you and use a Mac, but you really want the control software. That's why I believe Blackmagic Design is coming out with the new consoles. Aaron Parecki has a really good video. I want to say this. What happened to my Blackmagic Design here? There we go. One of the reasons we believe kind of now that these new devices, let me get them on a screen here first. It drive me crazy having to drag us over every time. I should have changed this back after my client, back to me and a laptop. The reason they came out with these new ATEM television studio consoles is because they have the complete set of buttons on the front. So for taking something to a location and not having to use a laptop, you can record to an M2 drive internally. You can record to an SD drive as well. They have an HD model, 1080p, H.264 that you can record just the program out. Then if you go to the ISO model, and that's the second one right here, that has the ability to take regular inputs into it, or you can actually bring in a remote input into it using a streaming device like a web presenter, the ATEM lineup. You can actually stream to streaming bridges in every single channel. So I could dedicate channel 8 in that device and then bring in a client without using a streaming bridge. And a streaming bridge is a little device. I think it's here. That's the microphone converter. Let's see if they have the streaming bridge on this page. Nope, they don't. But the streaming bridge is a little device about the size of this one that you can then broadcast from an ATEM that will actually stream. So it'd have to be the ATEM Mini Pro line and up. And then you can stream to the streaming bridge, and then it has an HDMI output, and you can bring that into your device. And so you could bring that into any device. You could bring that into your laptop, your Mac. You could bring it into another switcher from another company, but you can only stream to it by using a Blackmagic design device. And that's going to be the same thing with these new panels that are ISO. And there is only one right now. The 4K records only the program out, but it is a 4K 12G SDI inputs, outputs, all built into that device. And I don't know if they're going to come out with an ISO version or not. We'll see. And if they did come out with an ISO, it'd be great to see the same streaming bridge ability in there. So to answer that question, really, it's basically, it depends on why you don't want to take a laptop or a computer with you. If you don't, you can get a MIDI console and control it from those devices. Or you can actually get one of these new ATEM Television Studio HDs. And especially if you buy the rack-mounted versions, you're probably not going to control from the front of these. Probably not going to want to push all these buttons. So in reality, you're probably going to use the software, and these have more than one ME in them. This is a 4 ME. And that's like having the control software on your screen 4 times. So it's a lot to take in. And so if you get one of those devices, you're going to probably want to buy a console. And then you need a console like this puppy right here if you're going to get all of those MEs fired up. So that's a crazy console, but there's enough buttons to run an entire 4 ME there. You could get this console and run a 2 ME. Or you can just use the control software and get this one like Joe and Tony just purchased for them, their studio. And again, Aaron Parecki has, let's see, I think he has the 4 ME Constellation HD, not the 4K. And you can see the price. It's $8,900 for that one. Under $4,000 for the ATEM 4 ME, and then you can buy this 2 ME, which actually has Super Source and the features you really want for $1,695. compare that to going to a ATEM SDI Extreme, which would be what I would recommend if you're okay with SDI. I would then go with this one. It's $14.95. So look at that. And Aaron Parecki did a good video on comparing this device. That's the ATEM SDI Extreme ISO compared to the ATEM Television Studio HD8 ISO. So he has a video I watched part of that today, and it's quite fascinating because he was pointing out some things that you can do in the SDI desktop version of the ATEM SDI Extreme ISO because the way the outputs are laid out, where you can't do the same thing in this device. So this actually has some things that this doesn't, and this has some things that that doesn't. So go figure. They're both 8-input devices, and check those out as well. But we're going to focus in on these devices right here, and that's where we're going to spend a majority of our stream tonight. So, okay, one last look at the chat, and then we are going to get going. Okay, let's see. Anybody else pop in the chat? So I don't know if that, my fave tech, if that answers your question. You definitely want to access this control software if you're going to run a Blackmagic device. There's just so many things that you can do. You're going to see me doing it tonight, dragging and dropping still images in so I can pop them on the screen. I guess you could create macros for that and then program them. So, but I'm not sure that there's just an easy answer to that without knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish and why you don't want to use the software. So, okay. Do I have a recommendation for a camera slider? I really like Eldacron, DJ Ware. So, and the reason for that is they feel like they're doing a lot of things cutting edge. They have a couple little sliders. They even have one that just is a box that slides on your desk. So check out Eldacron. Let me just bring that up real quick, and we can always talk more about this down the road. Okay, Eldacron. Don't ask me how to spell it. I'm just taking my best shot right here. And we'll bring this up on the screen. So this would be my recommendation for a small slider. It's the Eldacron Slider 1 version 2. So check out what they make. They have lots of tools, but this is a great little slider. I have an Eldacron, one of their first versions that's a lot larger than this, but check out the slider. There's so many good manufacturers that make them now, but I've been a real fan of these guys for quite some time right now, so I hope that answers your question, DJ Ware. Okay, so I think I haven't missed any other question. Something about my lips from Joe. So back here, it's very windy here, and it sounds like it's very windy in Connecticut. So there just seems to be storm fronts going across the United States right now. Some really weird weather. David says it's windy in Spokane as well. Okay. Cool. I'm glad you're going to check that out, DJ Ware. I think you'll enjoy that. So watch some videos on that. Actually, one of my first unboxing videos I did on my channel, I think, was on the Eldacron slider way back when. And so if I can remember, I will put a link to that in the description. I'm not even sure if it's live on the channel anymore. Okay, so let's dive into this. I really think this is going to be a good thing to do tonight. I'm going to start with a 2-box here. And again, we'll talk about where I'm getting this 2-box stuff from. Let's see. I want to bring the software up here for now, and we'll come back to my PC later. So again, just to get going here so we can have chapter markers in this later, we're going to talk about 7 major differences between the ATEM Mini Pro ISO versus the Mini Extreme ISO. It's still the ATEM Mini, but just to cut it short, I just called it the Mini Extreme ISO. Also on the bottom, I said we'll talk about the SDI advantages, and then there's a bonus audio thing. It's not in my top 7, but I decided to throw it in because I think it's semi-important. I'll explain why I think it's semi-important. But I've been using these devices for a long time. I use 2 of them all the time in my studio. I do that so I can get 14 different inputs going at the same time in my studio. Obviously, I could go with a new 4ME if I wanted to do that, or there's the 20 input devices, but in reality, I'm perfectly fine with my 14, and I only have to switch between my program view and my streaming bridge occasionally. So it would be nice to have 15, but I'm very, very close to how many inputs I use all the time. And that's for consulting and sharing that with other people. So the other thing I want to do is give you 5 questions tonight. So if you're taking notes, write these down or watch it back later. But 5 questions that you should ask yourself before you purchase any of the devices. And this may even help clarify the devices you already have if you need to be switching or not. So our first slide tonight is going to be talking about really one of the profoundly obvious differences between these two. And I'll just make it simple. That is the inputs. And you can see here on this graph, you can look at it later. I can actually bring this in full screen, but you can see on there that you have 4 inputs on the HDMI ATEM Mini, and then you go to the Extreme, you have 8 inputs. And so that's really all this slide is about. But even in the SDI models, you can see on the top, I created little SDI versions so you can see the back, and you can see that they have, starting from the right to the left, because we're looking at the back of the device, you can see that it has 8 SDI inputs, and so does the HDMI. So I've included on these slides both the backs of the SDI versions and backs of the HDI version, and that's one of the things that I felt like I could have done a better job of. We've covered this in the past. So the first thing, the first major difference, and I want to make this very clear, the number one reason a lot of people have switched to an Extreme or Extreme ISO is because they wanted more inputs. I had a lot of switches in my studio, almost to a fault, that these little switches, so you can have 2 HDMI inputs come in the bottom. And let me go to me in my logo. You can have 2 HDMIs in and then 1 HDMI out, and then it has a switch going back and forth. So I'm gonna have to fix this slide real quick. So in reality, that was how I would add more inputs. So I had a HyperDeck coming into 3 and 4 in the back of my ATEM Mini Pro, and I still have my ATEM Mini Pro here in my studio. It's right here. What's the deal here? What's the deal here? Have it right here. So it had 4 inputs, and I was using, let's move this out a little bit out of the way. I was using 3 and 4 for my key and fill of my HyperDeck, and that's that HyperDeck right here. And so I was only down to 2 inputs. So if I wanted to do animated graphics or my animated subscribe logo, I was using these 2 inputs. So this is all I had. So I wanted the extra 8 inputs that you get on owning the Extreme. And so back to this. Turn the logo back off and drop the slide back in. So again, having an SDI model would be probably a necessity if you were trying to use SDI camera inputs for longer runs. The big advantage of SDI over HDMI, and that's changing a little bit because HDMI technology is increasing and they're able to do some things inside the cables to give you longer runs. But it used to be about 15 feet max for an HDMI cable, 1080p. I'm sure that changes when you go 4K, even though I know the cables get thicker. But now you can go even longer runs. But SDI, you could go, I believe, up to 300 feet without dropping any frames. So that's why a lot of people would want an SDI model so they can have SDI inputs. Plus the HyperDecks used key and fill SDI outputs. And so I had to convert for my ATEM Mini Pro. So, and if you know what a HyperDeck is, I'll just throw this graphic on the screen. This is my newest HyperDeck. And you can see that it has two SDIs out there on the top right. One is fill and one is key. Even though you see HDMI inputs and HDMI outputs, if you want to do animated graphics and key out the background, you got to use SDI outs. And so I'm still converting in my studio. Though as these HyperDecks got better and better, they made improvements. So now you do have an HDMI in, so you can come directly in from your camera and record your camera without using any SDI conversion. And you can come out to a monitor in your studio or into your ATEM if you just want to play video back. But the real reason to buy this device, this is the HD Plus model, is because you want to do key and fill, and that's what those two top right-hand SDIs are. And then there's loop outs, so you can send it someplace else. So there's lots of advantages of having a HyperDeck, plus you can remotely control it. And I use it to run my intros and my outro videos, or anytime I want to show a video, I can record a macro and it'll automatically roll the video when I switch to it. And that's a great, great asset to have. So that is the biggest thing about the first major difference between the ATEM Mini, the Pro, the Pro ISO, which is what we're going to focus on tonight, and the Extreme and Extreme ISO. So the first thing that I want to talk about are the 8 inputs over the 4 inputs. So now you can add more devices. You could have a laptop come in. You could have 2 or 3 or 4 cameras coming in, and then you'd have outputs to spare. So that's pretty cool if you buy a Extreme. And then also it has the exact same, the Extreme compared to the Pro have the exact same encoding and have the exact same recording. So you can record the program and you can record the program in the Extreme as well. Now these are the ISOs in the picture here. And ISOs can do a lot more than an Extreme or an ATEM Mini Pro can. And that, again, is recording every single input. So all 8 inputs or all 4 inputs, depending on which device you have. And that's the same with the SDI models that are ISOs. So you can record every single input. You also get an XML file that has all the still images in it, have all your audio files in it, has all of your different cameras. Even if you didn't have a camera hooked up to it, it's going to record black. Then you can actually use that XML file in DaVinci Resolve to do some changes later on. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about here, slide number 2, major differences is, you get back here to program, and that is video outputs. Now this is a little confusing, and I'm going to cover more than one type of input when I do this, but I didn't want to have another 2 more slides. So let's talk about USB-C inputs on the devices, and let's talk about HDMI and SDI outputs. So when you buy a Extreme over an ATEM, you go from one HDMI output to 2. What does that mean? That means that you could have one go to a multi-view monitor if you have an Extreme, and you could have the other one go to a confidence monitor. And if you don't know what a confidence monitor is, it's just a monitor either above the camera or next to the camera, so that you can be on the air and also see what people are seeing. So if you're producing your own show like I do, I have a confidence monitor above my main camera every single week, and that's what I use the ATEM Mini Extreme ISOs for. They have more than one HDMI out. They have two, so one is a multi-view, and I can change it to anything I want. So I could go to camera 1 to see if it's in focus. If I want to just see what's on camera 1, like right now I'm looking at the program so I can see what you guys see clearer, so I can read my own slides. And then the other one, it can go anywhere in the studio as well, and I can have anything on it. So if I want my laptop to show me the Zoom conversation, I can do that. If I want it to be the program out, I can do that. So I can have whatever I want on that confidence monitor. Now, 2 is not enough for me. I split those throughout my studio. And that is what I want to talk about next. And that is when you go to an SDI model, if you go to the SDI for the ATEM Mini Extreme, and you go to the SDI model there on the top, you can see you have 2 SDI outs, and they have the same ability that my Extreme ISO has in my studio. I can have one go to one monitor, me multi-view. I could have the other one go to the front stage projection. I could have it go to a backstage projector. But I have 2 now in a Mini, not an Extreme. I have 2 outs because there's more space and they could squeeze more inputs. Well, 4 inputs and 2 outputs in that little ATEM Mini. Now look over on the far right, you go from 2 like I have on my Extreme ISO, you go to 4, and all 4 of those can be matrixed to whatever you want them to. Aaron Parecki talks about that in that video I was watching today, and that's the disadvantage of the new console devices. And again, they are called the ATEM Television Studio HD8 ISO. That has some dedicated auxiliary outputs on the back, so they don't have matrices built in. So you can't send anything you want to those screens. One's dedicated to multi-view, the other's dedicated to program. So you're down to only 2 SDI outputs that you can send anywhere you want. And that is something that is not necessarily the greatest thing when you could buy an SDI Extreme ISO and have 4, and you can send those wherever you want. So one could be program or multi-view, whatever you want. The other one could be program, multi-view. One could be whatever you're sending to the main venue. It could be a confidence monitor for a guest you have in a different room so they could see themselves. There's all kinds of things that you could do with 4 SDI outs, and it makes this new ATEM Extreme SDI ISO or ATEM Mini SDI ISO model a great choice because of the 4 outputs. The other thing is when you get to the Extreme models, either the SDI or the regular HDMI input device, you have 2 USB-C ports where the ATEM Minis only have 1. Why is that important? If I want to record what I'm sending to the program, I can plug this little drive or whatever drive you use. Some people say these are failing. Mine haven't failed. But go to Blackmagic Design's website and find out what they recommend and get one of those. Hopefully it won't fail. But I can plug this SD drive in there and I can record directly to it. I can do that on an ISO model. I can do that on a Pro model. But I can record directly to this. And even the SDI ISO model, I can record directly to this. But I can't use it as a webcam into Zoom at the same time, which I've been doing since the beginning of having my ATEM Mini Pro. I was using this when I was recording, and then later when I was doing Zoom or live on YouTube, going directly from my ATEM Mini into OBS, I was having to use that SDI out as a webcam, and then I would have to use OBS to do the recording. So the advantage of going to a Extreme model is that you get 2 USB-C ports. So now I could have, which I do tonight, I could have a hard drive plugged into one. Oh, by the way, I'm not recording. So let's hit record. And I'm not recording ISOs tonight. But so now I'm recording to one of these, and I still have the other USB-C coming into my my laptop so I could then use it as a Zoom camera. So tomorrow morning, if I have a consult appointment, I'm all ready to go. I just turn on all my equipment, I fire up Zoom, and I can use my ATEM Extreme ISO as a web camera, and I can still record. So if I wanted to record that session that I'm doing for that client, I could record on one of these. I would use an alternative microphone on my lapel to put audio in the ATEM, because I use my RØDECaster Pro audio when I'm in a Zoom call, but I could put a lapel mic on and record all my audio for the recording for this as well. So, and that's a whole nother video on how to use Zoom. But so the last thing I want to talk about on this, as you can see, it's on the right-hand side, bonus audio. It does have a headphone output. So my Extremes have a headphone output. Now, this is a pro and a con. I would prefer to do all my mixing on whatever I'm using as my main audio device. So for me, it's the RØDECaster Pro, and that would be these headphones. So I'm going to record, I'm going to mix and make sure it sounds great. And then I'm just going to make sure I have audio with this set of headphones, which is plugged into the back of my Extreme ISO #1. And so the disadvantage of this is if you were going to be remote, it would be nice to have, and using the Extreme as your main audio device, right? Because it has the audio built into it, has two 3.5 microphone inputs in the back. That's the same as the ATEM Mini line, the Pro and the Pro ISO, and the Extreme and Extreme ISO, as well as the SDI Mini and the Extreme ISO SDI. So they have a headphone output on the bigger models, and they don't have a headphone output on the bottom models. So how do you monitor your audio if you only have an older ATEM Mini? Well, you would use a monitor. So you get a monitor, like a computer monitor, and you would then plug in headphones in it if it had a monitor output, and you could hear what the program is through your headphones, but you can't plug it back into the ATEM Mini or ATEM Mini Pro. So keep that in mind. You do have bonus audio. I don't think it's that big a deal. It doesn't have the greatest preamps in it. And so I would just always recommend that you have a audio device inside your studio that you're doing all your audio mixing on, and then you're sending audio from the back of that to one of the channels in the back of your ATEM. And you do that 3.5 millimeter in the back of the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and as well as the Extreme ISO models. They only have 3.5 millimeter jacks, where the newer consoles, the Blackmagic designer coming out now, the ATEM Television Studio HD8 and up, they have regular XLR inputs in the back, and that's a really nice feature to have. Plus, they have some MADI features for adding extra audio to them. So those devices are great for studios, for podcasting studios, and I may one day end up with one of those type devices in my Studio B. We'll have to see. So again, 2 SDIs in the outs in the SDI model, only 1 HDMI out in the non-SDI model, 4 SDIs out in the SDI Extreme model, and only 2 HDMI outs in the Extreme HDMI model. And then you have in the Extremes, all of them, the Extreme ISO, and the SDI Extreme ISO, all of those have headphone outputs, and that is a great little bonus that you can take advantage of, and hopefully that slide helps you. So lots of work today on these slides. Okay, next, number 3. Media player 1 verse 2. Now, a lot of people don't talk about this, and because I don't think they think it's important, but I did a video on this. It's about 22 minutes long, and you'd think, how in the world, Keith, could you take 22 minutes to talk about the 2 media players? Because media is what we do. If we're not doing a camera on the screen, we're probably showing a slide. We probably want to have a lower thirds on the screen. Like right now, I'm using my my upstream key to do these displays. I should have one of my downstream keys on, so let's just look at my downstream key right now. And I'm using the background. So I'm using up both my media players right now. I'm using one to drop slides in, and I'm using the other one to put this graphic behind me. So not having two media players in the smaller ATEMs, in my opinion, is a big problem. That's why you don't have Super Source, which is going to be one of our slides tonight. You have one DVE, which is one of the slides tonight. But I really wanted to point out that if you have the little ATEM Minis, you only have one media player. So let's define what a media player is. You can see right here on the bottom, that is a box. It's blank right now. It's what we would call a preview box. Above that is access to all my hard drives on that computer. So I could locate a JPEG or a PNG file, and I could then double click on it and preview it in this box below. And that will be in my new video when it's released, probably tomorrow. And I have 20 still images that I can load up, so they're ready at any point. And then those can be dragged and dropped onto the screen. So this is where we're going to go to a 3-box. And here's the software. So on the bottom here in my Extreme, you can see I have 2 media players. And I'm just simply dragging and dropping these graphics in. So let's get back to the one we really want on the screen right now. No, Upstream Keys, we want this one. So I'm just dragging and dropping these in. You can see right here. So I could go back to my last slide. I can go to this slide. I can go forward. I could drop my logo back in. And that's what it looks like when you just show the media player. But if I was to put that same logo on the screen, it looks like that. So that's a whole nother conversation of how these keys work and why they do that. But let's go ahead and drop my number 3 slide back in. And so in reality, and then we'll take that key off the air. And all I did was turn it off. It covers everything when I turn it on, and it stays in this Super Source box up here on the top when I don't have the key on. So on the top, you see the slide, and on the bottom, you see the software. So that slide is not live, so you're not going to see things dropped in and out. But this is the actual media player. This is what it looks like. And you can see I have 1 media player, 2 media players. If I go up here and log into my ATEM Mini Pro, it's live and it's loading the still images right now. I still have the ability to preview things over here. I'll show you how that works. We'll go into my travel drive and we'll just click on this Blue Dog commercial that I shot. And there's the preview because I clicked on it. It's the same slide that's right there. I could drag this one. Let's go to my 200 subscribers still. I could drag it from up here and drop it. And I can drag it from down here and drop it. So this is preview, and I have access to every single drive on that computer. Now, here's the thing that's also covered in my new video series. I can go into my PC, log into my ATEM Mini Pro, and if I had a still image on my PC that I wanted to bring into tonight's live stream, I could log in from my PC and I could drop that into the media player, and it's going to show up in tonight's live stream, even though I'm streaming from my Extreme ISO, but I'm doing most of this show tonight on my laptop. Both my PC and my laptop are connected at all times, and that means I have access to everything in my network. If I had 7 computers in my network at a business location and I had a studio in the back, I could go to any PC in the network and load that into the media player. So think about that. I could have a meeting in one office. We could decide what slides we want to show when we go live. We could drop them from that office, from that laptop or that computer or that Macintosh. We could go into the main production studio and all of that stuff would be loaded. That, my friends, I think is pretty powerful. So the ATEM Mini Extreme and Extreme ISO and the SDI model only have 1 media player. And you can see on the bottom right, it only has 1 media player. I have my logo loaded in. So if I want a different graphic on the screen, I have to load in a different graphic. So even though I have 20 stills available in the Extremes, as well as the Minis, the Mini Pro and Mini Pro ISO, I can only make one of those alive in the stream at one time because I only have 1 media player. And if I go back up here and log in to my Extreme, And this one, I can have 2 graphics live at the same time. And one of those is the slide I'm using on the top of the screen up there. And the other one is the background. And watch what happens if I load, once it gets loaded here. Watch it, what happens if I load something else in the background image right now. There you go. That media player is playing, the background behind me, and the foreground image are these slides. If I load them in right here, that slide changes. If I load this one in, that slide changes. And if I go back to this one, it changes. So back to number 4. So a major difference is the DVEs, and that can be displayed here. So number 5, or actually number 4, Upstream Keys. Here's another major difference between these 2 devices. You have 4 Upstream Keys in the Extreme models. What does that mean? What's a key? A key is a device that can load an image on the screen. So let's say you wanted to bring picture-in-picture on the screen. Let's change what's in. Well, let's do this one instead. So that's picture-in-picture. That is key number 2. We'll go into that, and we'll turn the camera back on. It timed out. There we go. And you're going to see I can use a key to bring picture-in-picture. This is picture-in-picture as well. It's just showing the same slide you guys are seeing. If I wanted to change what was in that, I can go down here and change it to my laptop. And that's DVE in key number 3. And now you have my laptop software on the screen. So again, Upstream Keys, you have 1 Upstream Key in an ATEM Mini Pro. We'll go over there just to show you. Go back to the ATEM Mini Pro. And you can see I have 1 Upstream Key. It's on the air right now, even though you can't see what's on this device because I'm not using it in our tonight's live. But again, if I was to put that key on the air, I'm going to go over here and see what's in it, and it's my media player, and my 1 media player has this image in it. And so if this was live, this would bring that image on the air, but I only have 1 media player, and I only have 1 upstream key. I also have 1 downstream key. And the upstream keys have more than 1 option. I cover this in my new video coming out tomorrow. I have videos here on my channel. But you have Luma, which is for basically black and white graphics. They could be other single solid colors, but it looks best with black and white and not a lot of background images or shadows in the background. But you can make those look nice if you use the pre-multiplied link in the bottom of that upstream key. You have chroma, that's for doing different colored background screens. And then you have pattern, that's for putting faces in them. So again, I'm in upstream key 1. If I change it to pattern here, and clicked on this, it would put my, if I wasn't using SuperSource, it would put my face in the screen on the air, but I'm not in my extreme ISO right now. I'm in my ATEM. So, but this is actually putting whatever this camera is, Canon 5D Mark III, is putting it in that circle. And so I'll demo that when we get back over to my extreme. And then you have DVE, which is picture-in-picture. So that's what you have available in that 1 key. And then the downstream key, which is found right here, you only have just a Luma key. So you only really have 1 option. And that's why most people use this for their lower third logo. And that's how they bring their logo on the air. But again, that's what you could use. But I could bring any other device hooked up to the ATEM Mini Pro on the air through that DVE. And again, that's picture-in-picture. And you can see also on my slide, we're going to go back over here to my extreme ISO. You can also see on the slide up there, and let's just increase this for a second here. You can see that I've circled some of the things that change on the device itself. So you can see that You have 4 keys on the right, 1 key on the left. That's Upstream Keys. So that's all you have. That's all we're talking about right now. You can see the on the air and off the air on the left-hand screen. Let's come back to me and slideshow here. Change what's over there. So you also have on that side, in the extreme, you have a whole new matrix. So I have access to all 4 keys, and I can change what's in them, because on the front of the extreme now, you have this what did I do here? Input 4? No, I am confused all of a sudden. There we go. So you have all of these matrix buttons now. So the keys are right across here. These buttons right here from here to here. And I can choose what's in those keys. All of these are inputs, and these are the keys. So you have the upstream keys right here, and then we will talk about the next buttons here. So not only do you have these new buttons available, you also have the ability to turn the key on and off on the extreme right there. So we'll cut back to Super Source, and let's get back into this demo box right here. And so I have the software on the bottom. So 4 upstream keys available in the extreme. And then you can see the buttons that are available. Let me change that slide here real quick. So you can see the buttons that are available on the front of those devices that apply to the upstream keys. So that's just the biggest difference. I'm not going to go too deep into what the upstream keys do, but just know if you buy a extreme model, you're going to get 4 upstream keys. If you buy the little mini models, you get 1 upstream key. Now, there is another key available to you on the ATEM Mini, and that's the downstream key. That's what this slide is about. And you can see that you have 1 row in the ATEM Mini, and then you have 2 downstream keys available in the extreme. So not only do you have all of the advantage of the 2 media players, now I have the advantage of these downstream keys, and I can bring those on and off the air. Whatever is in them is going to display. And like I said before, this downstream key brings a slide on, but I could also change that downstream key up here. Instead of it being media player, I could go over here to pattern, and then I could turn it on, and I could put me in a circle. So having lots of upstream keys and downstream keys is important. Now, that's the upstream keys. We'll go back here to Luma for that one. But if you close this and you get in the downstream key window right here, it's just 1 window, but it has 2 downstream keys in it. Here's one downstream key number 1, and here's downstream key number 2. But now if we go over to the ATEM Mini instead, you can see that in the menu, I only have 1 downstream key. So even though in the upstream key, I still have options to do chroma, Luma, pattern, and DVE, I only have 1 of those, and the downstream key, I only have 1. So the big advantage of going to an extreme, in my opinion, is you get a lot of extra features. You get 2 media players, you get 4 more inputs, right? You get 2 HDMI outs with matrices, so I can send anything I want to those monitors. And one of those matrices on the front of the ATEM Mini Pro and Pro ISO, and it's also on the front of a Extreme ISO and the SDI models. So it's nice to be able to just push buttons on the front of your ATEM to control the HDMI out, and it's located right here on the Extreme, and it's located on the Mini right here. So these buttons will change what's going to HDMI output, which is right there. And these buttons right here will change what's going to the first HDMI output right here on the back of my Extreme. And there's 2 HDMIs coming out of it. So it's really important to know that you have that ability to control those outputs on the front of the ATEM Mini and the Extreme, but you have more outputs, you have more media players, and you have more upstream keys, and you double down on your downstream keys too. And that's really important because let's say you wanted to bring a guest in from a PC and a guest in from a laptop, and you wanted to bring those up in on your screen, you could use the two downstream keys, or you could use the two upstream keys, however you wanted to do that. But you could bring a guest one at a time in on the screen if you wanted to from a DVE. If you wanted them smaller on the screen, you could bring them in from the flying key and your DVE. There's just so many things that you can do by having 4 upstream keys and 2 downstream keys. Usually you'd use your graphics in the downstream keys, and you do the technical things like green screen and picture-in-picture and all that in the upstream keys. So again, downstream keys are bumped up by going up to an extreme. You get, instead of 1, you get 4 upstream keys, and you get, instead of 1 downstream key, you get 2 downstream keys if you go to a extreme ISO or even the SDI model. Okay, next slide. The other thing that you get, and let's do this, slideshow and me, and we'll change the slide back. The other thing that you get is 2 DVEs. What is that? It's picture-in-picture. So the first picture shows you my face in this camera right here, and I have my other camera, this camera right here. Is it still live? We'll see. Hang on one second. I don't know why it's not coming on the air. Something's amiss. So I have 2 cameras that I can show, one full screen and one in a tiny screen, and I can move that anywhere I want on the screen. I'll demo that here in a second. And then in the slide next to that, all the way over, you have the Extreme, and that's the Extreme model, the Extreme ISO, and the Extreme SDI ISO model. You have 2 DVEs. So I'm in my Extreme right now, and I can bring 2 DVEs on the air. So let's just go to the regular background right here, and let's bring this one on the air, and let's bring that one on the air. That's box number, that's DVE 2. And so that is going to change here in just a second. So we're going to go into 2. It's my 5D Mark IV. And 3, we're going to make that my main camera. And then we're going to increase that. And so I can have 2 DVEs on the screen at the same time. And I cannot do this if I'm in the ATEM Mini at the same time. I can put a border around this one, so I have a blue border behind it. I can use flying key. So let's say I set that to be my first location, and I want this to be my second location. And then this will be my last location. So let's fly that around. So these DVEs can be positioned anywhere on the screen. You can shrink them, you can size them, you can put borders behind them. And so that's pretty cool. There's 2 of those available if you have an Extreme, and there's only 1 of those available in the ATEM Mini. And so that is another big advantage if you go with a Extreme. So we'll turn those off the air instead of a, let's grab this again, instead of having a ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. So let's review. 4 more inputs if you go up. If you buy the SDI model, you get 4 outputs. If you buy the HDMI Extreme model, you get 2 HDMI outputs, but they all can be chosen what you want to go there. you get 2 media players if you bump up. So you go from 1 media player in the ATEM Mini, Mini Pro ISO up to 2 media players. That means you could have 2 different picture-in-pictures or lower thirds or upper bugs in the corner up here. You could have you could have a bug on the screen up here, and you could have a lower thirds, or you could have a picture in your key right here showing slides right here, or even you could use your DVE to bring video in right here. But if you want to use a still image, you would put it in that media player, and you can have 2 of those still images live at the same time, where if you have an ATEM Mini, you can only have 1. You also have the outputs, which we talked about. You have the DVEs, which means you can have 2 of those puppies on the air at the same time. And so you can see I'm in Super Source, which is our next slide, right? So let's go there right now. Super Source is a big deal because I have Super Source on the screen right now. But that doesn't mean I can't bring my DVEs on the air. What is a DVE? It's simply a picture-in-picture. That's what the last slide was about. And you have 2 of those, and you can position those anywhere you want, and it has nothing to do with Super Source. Super Source gives you the ability to do 4 boxes. So here's a 4-box layout right now on the screen. So I can have 4 boxes on the air, and I can have 2 DVEs on the air as well. And you can see these cover up Super Source. So you would want to use these for your last layer if you're going to add them. So that means that I could have 6 boxes on the air at the same time. And guys, in reality, that is huge. So 6 of these boxes on the air at the same time. So I could make this a picture-in-picture on this device down here. And I could make this other one picture-in-picture on this down here. And again, this is all happening inside a Extreme ISO, but the same would work on the Extreme and the Extreme SDI models. So I have 6 boxes on the air right now, and you can only put 1 box on the air if you are inside an ATEM Mini, Mini Pro. So that is a big, huge step up if you decide to go this route and not go with an ATEM Mini model. So let me do this slide one last time here. So put the software control up there. So Super Source, it's available right over here in the menu. So you have your 4 keys, but above that Super Source. And when you have that open, you can pick 4 boxes, different layouts. You can turn boxes on and off. You can change what's in those boxes. So right now I have my camera there. I could switch to my other camera in that box. So I have access. I could even, if I wanted to, I could put the color bars in there for whatever reason I would want to do that. I could put my laptop in there. So again, that is the ability to add whatever you want in those boxes. I can size them, make them bigger, smaller. I can crop them or not crop every one of those boxes, which is great. Now, one thing you can do in a DVE is that you can add in a DVE, you can add a border like that one has on it. And you can also do some other things, but you cannot do that in Super Source. I can put this background in the foreground, and that's done right here in the Art tab. And I can do it in the foreground, right like that. Now you can't see me. And I can do it in the background. Why would you put it in the foreground? Because you could make a background, a foreground with this box cut out, that box cut out, and that box cut out. Then on the foreground image, you could add my name, the channel name, subscribe. Right there, you could add another graphic for that image, and you could add another graphic for that image. And that's why you would want a foreground image. And I used one of those in my first interview of Adam Tao. Okay, so that's the advantage of Super Source, and that's only available if you go to the Extreme ISO or the SDI Extreme ISO. So keep that in mind. That's another bonus if you go to this device. Plus, there are all kinds of guys buttons and things like this. Let's actually go to slideshow image and drop that in. There's all kinds of extra buttons on the front of an Extreme. So you have the top matrix, you have the ability to bring the headphones up and down in volume, on and off, reset the volume on the headphones. You have all the camera control icons available to you. So if you have Blackmagic designed cameras, you can control those cameras on the front of your Extreme, even your ISO model or your SDI ISO model. You have extra buttons for macros. You don't on the ATEM Mini. So if we cut to this other camera, let me see. Yeah, let's cut to camera 4 and then turn this off. I don't know why that's coming on every time. So right here, you can see I don't have any camera control buttons on my ATEM Mini, but I have this whole section right here where I could control all 8 Blackmagic design cameras. It would be a lot easier if this was an SDI model going into the Blackmagic cameras in SDI, but you still can use Blackmagic cameras by using HDMI and converters. I have the macro buttons right here. I have 6 of those, so I could activate the top 6 macros on the device. I don't have any macro buttons on my ATEM Mini. I have extra transitions available to me on here. I have extra picture-in-picture. I literally have the ability to go to a 2-box on the front of this device. So if I turn those on, and then I hit the 2-box, there you go. It defaulted to those 2 boxes, and then I could take them back off the air. So lots of extra buttons on here. I'm not going to cover all of those, but you do have extra matrix buttons to control what's coming out of HDMI output number 1 or SDI output number 1 if you had an SDI model. And then you even have a clean channel button on the front of the Extreme, and you do not have a clean channel button on the ATEM. So I have my upstream key on and off. I have a downstream key on and off available here. Over here, I only have a upstream key on. I do not have a downstream key on and off button. So lots of things available. Picture-in-picture around the screen on my ATEM and picture-in-picture around the screen on my Extreme. And then again, you have both media players. They are actually inputs, so I can cut to those. So if I wanted to cut to my background image from the camera you're seeing right now, let's go to my normal camera and cut to it. And now let's cut back to the background image, or better yet, let's cut to the logo image or the media player image. So again, I'm able to cut on the front of this ATEM to any one of these inputs, including Super Source, which is right there. So I'm going to cut from camera 4, my downward camera, to Super Source. So I just cut to Super Source, and there's our final slide with all of those different buttons that are available that are on the ATEM Extreme that aren't on the ATEM Mini. So lots of things to consider if you're going to buy. So here's the 5 questions. Let's get ready for this right now. What questions do you ask to make the right decision to buy the right ATEM for your studio? Now that would include more than just these devices. Let's say that I wanted to go to some of these bigger devices and I'm trying to figure all that out. Would these questions apply to these devices? Yes, they would. Not all of the questions, but some of them. So here's question number 1. How many cameras and items do you want to be able to bring into your either recorded videos or your live videos in your studio, right? So if you're doing a podcast and you want that 3-camera setup, 1 wide shot, 1 on the guest, 1 on the interviewer, maybe you want 4 cameras. The first question I think everybody needs to ask before they buy any of these ATEM Mini switchers is, how many devices do you want to have live at the same time? So cameras and other devices. Do you want to have a laptop coming in? Do you want to bring guests in to your live stream from a laptop or from a computer like Joe just built for his studio using Zoom ISO? Those are questions you need to ask. How many devices do you need to have coming in at the same time? Are you training at home to where you need to show a downward camera You need to have 2 different angles on you. There's going to be one on your guest. You want to show your studio through a Skycam. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, how do you want to display those devices? Are they all coming on the air one at a time? And of course, if you're going to bring them on the air one at a time, you probably want to, let me get this back up here. You probably want to have a logo on the screen. So again, you're going to want to have one upstream key because you want to bring a logo on when you're live. But this is just one camera view. And then if I wanted to show like a still image, right, then I could cut to a still image just like this. So that's it. That's a media player. I don't need an input to show that because I'm using the media player built into the switcher. So how many devices are you going to want to bring into there? Are you going to want to bring a streaming bridge in so someone could come in remotely? Are you going to want to bring a laptop in and a PC in? Are you going to have any other cameras in your studio? So the total cameras and other devices that you want to bring in, that's the second question that you really need to ask if you are going to go live. Now, question number 3 is, and this is really about those devices. Are you going to produce videos in your studio, edit those, and then upload them to YouTube and do all the editing later, like in Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro? All of that software that you can use to edit videos, you could record in each one of your cameras, grab those discs, load it into your hard drive, and do all that editing and upload it to YouTube. Or number 3, are you going to want to try to record all of those channels all together at one time, do your own edit, right? Switch between different pictures, different backgrounds, like in SuperSource, have your DVEs on the air or not on the air. Are you going to want to record all these different images and then edit them later? That really comes down to question number 3. So why do you ask that question? Because if you want to record it, that's going to force you to buy an ATEM Mini Pro or an Extreme Pro so you can at least record this image that you're seeing right now. So every cut I make is going to be in that edit. And if you want to change it later, right, then you're going to have to consider, do you want to record ISO tracks? Because if you record ISO tracks, which is question number 4, I want to record everything, every single input going into that ATEM. Now you've already determined that you want to buy an ISO model. Okay. Question number 5. Where do you want to send all this? Like, do you want to have a confidence monitor? You're going to have more than one set. Do you want to have your multi-view on the screen? Do you want to be able to have confidence monitors over each of those 3 cameras? So you may even use Blackmagic cameras where you can have tally lights on there so you know which camera is live. And do you want to mix all that and record all those channels and send these different outputs to these different cameras? That's going to determine what device you're buying, how many outputs you need. Because again, if you only have one HDMI out coming out of an ATEM Mini, then that means you're going to either have multi-view on or a single image from one of the cameras on at one time. But that's the only output you have. You can split it as many times as you want. You can add other inputs and send them into your ATEM as many as you want by using splitters like this. You can split the multi-view to 2 monitors, but you can't pick what you want on those monitors separately because you only have one HDMI out. So if you buy the SDI ATEM Mini, then you have 2. But again, you're not going to be able to do more than 4 inputs, and you're only going to be able to send whatever you want to 2 monitors. If you buy the Extreme, you only have 2 HDMI outs. But if you buy the SDI Extreme, you have 4 SDI outputs. That means I could have one go to a web presenter and stream from it. I could have another one go to the conf monitor right here and have this view on it. I could have another one going to this camera right here and have, why does it keep doing that? Camera number 1 is live, turn that off. So this view on it, because I wouldn't want this view on the other camera. I would want the same view that I'm seeing above me, and that's what a confidence monitor. So I'd have one SDI go to this camera, I'd have one SDI go to that camera monitor, and then I could have another wide shot. This could be my wide shot. Let's call this my wide shot. And I could have a monitor above that as well if I had the 4 SDI Extreme model. 8 inputs, 2 media players, 4 keys, 2 downstream keys. I do DVEs, 2 pictures in pictures. I got 2 media players. I've got 2 downstream keys, 4 upstream keys, super source. I have 4 outputs. I have 8 inputs. It sounds to me like an SDI model that would record every input might be the absolute perfect model. Okay, so let's go to this last question. Get my logo back on here, and we're going to wrap with this. Whew. What's the end game? What's the long-term end game? Because in reality, I think without vision, you cast off the restraint that you need in your purchases. So that's why when I was planning Studio B, and it's still in the planning stages, I'm going to be building walls. I'm going to be putting cables in the walls. I don't want to do extra cables. I don't want to do not enough cables. I don't want to make a decision to stay 1G if I need to go 10G in that studio. I may change internet providers. There's all kinds of questions. So what is the long game? Are you planning on being a YouTuber and you're going to want to go live? Are you going to do some consulting when people start asking you questions and make some money on the side? Like I do a free 1-hour consult. And then if people want to sign up, I have a 3-hour and a 6-hour program. And I talk about that in the free consult and explain the pricing for that. So I have clients, I do training in my studio. So I need these different camera angles. I need to be able to show my desk and move this camera to different locations so it's on a pole. All of those decisions in this studio came over time, but in Studio B, I want to make sure I'm making all the right decisions. So do I want to have a podcasting table set up all the time? Do I want to have a set of cameras on me where I'm going to do my live streaming and my consulting at my desk, and another set of cameras always ready to go on the podcasting table? Well, that means that's going to have up to 3, maybe 4 inputs. My desk is going to have 6 or 7 inputs. I may end up having to go to a 4ME, and I'm not making any of those decisions yet because I'm waiting to see what Blackmagic Design does in 2024. Because I would think that building another unit is on the horizon. I think that's why they're trimming down on what they have available right now. And again, like I said, you're already seeing less things on their site when you go there. Just from last year. Last year, if you went on here, you would see a lot more choices here. There is no ATEM Mini anymore. There is no Extreme. Up here, you can see there is no Extreme. There's an Extreme ISO. So it goes ATEM Mini, ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. Then it goes ATEM SDI. Then it goes ATEM SDI Pro ISO. And then it goes ATEM SDI Extreme ISO. So they do have an ATEM SDI model that doesn't record, but I think this eventually is going to go away as well. You don't even see the HDMI model up here that doesn't encode and stream. So again, the site is changing. I think they're going to come out with other devices, and so I'm still in the planning stage. So I would sit down with a notepad if I was you, like I have. I drew my studio. I've talked to different people about HVAC. I've talked to people about framing. I've talked to people about soundproofing. How am I going to heat it? It's on a slab. It's not, it's my garage floor. So am I going to raise that to isolate it from some of the trucks. Like my neighbor has a diesel truck. He idles it every morning. That vibration is going to come in that studio. So I may have to raise the floor 2 inches inside my Studio B. So all of that has to be considered. So what is the end game? So ask yourself these basic questions. Play this part of the video back and see if it helps you make a long-term decision for your studio. So, okay, back to the chat. Sorry that took so long, but I wanted to cover those items. Any comments, any questions that you guys have? Did you all check out? Are you still with me? Let's go in here and see what we have. So Joe is still using his Extreme ISO in the studio. The 2ME is for on-site events. Cool. So I would love to know, Joe, going forward, the feedback that you get from having the 2ME. Obviously, there's some advantages of having the buttons on the ISO in your studio, but the 2ME, as you take it out on jobs, I would love to know more about that. I feel like using a deck link, this is from David, using a deck link in OBS with alpha channel is more flexible. Option instead of a HyperDeck. Maybe it's just me, one SDI needed only, not limited to codec. So yeah, I think the deck link is a viable option. I have a PC in my studio. I could add a deck link card to it. Joe, like I said, just did a video on, he built a network box with a M2 Mac in it. And it has SDIs in the back that come out of it. And you have 2 DeckLink Duo cards in there. So that's 8 SDIs. They can be inputs or outputs. I really like that. In general, I like that. So I may look at the possibility of doing something like that. The other thing, too, is if you buy a powerful enough rig, could you go up to 16 channels in one of those? Like, and then they have the new DeckLink card. It's got the smaller SDI hookups, though I do think they just went to a medium-sized SDI version of one of their cards. But Joe picked the 2 4 SDI. Actually, there's 5, but one's for reference. So he picked those DeckLink Duo cards because they have the full-size SDIs, and that makes total sense to me. So. Companion has OBS support, so with macros, you can play staged media. You use the setup in a church, and it's been flawless. Can present web content. Yeah, so, David, I've actually used OBS in a church install that I did. We replaced OBS for recording and transmitting for a web presenter and a HyperDeck. The HyperDeck is designed to do recording of the program, and then it comes out of the HyperDeck into a web presenter, HD, and that's the broadcast. It's more reliable for them. They've only had a couple glitches last year, over a year and a half with their web presenter, and they had a bunch of glitches all the time when they were using OBS. Again, that could be the computer they're using it on. So I do love Companion. I use it mainly just to run my lights in my studio, but Companion is a great, great tool. There's lots of guys using it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Elgato Stream Decks. I have the Pro big version, and I have the new Stream Deck Plus in my studio, and I love them both. So. I don't think the multiple SDI outputs can all be multi-view. Yeah, there seems to be some confusion about that. I can't find anything in print. Aaron Precky made it sound like they can all do multi-view if you're talking about the SDI Extreme ISO. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to reach out to tech support. So if you're watching this video, you might not be able to do multi-view to all of the SDI outputs, but you can do camera 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, program out, but multi-view might be something, and I'll dive deeper into that. Again, this video is just going to stay on this live stream. I'm not editing it and putting it on my channel. It's just going to be a live stream available for people to check out, but keep that in mind. I will double check. Joe, check the HyperDeck doing SRT the other night. It works great. It's awesome. So they've Blackmagic design is updated so that HyperDecks can do SRT. I'm not using anything currently for SRT, but that's exciting. Obviously, they do some good stuff on their channels. Joe actually has a new device that he has available for bonding, so go over and watch that video. I'm going to learn a little bit more about that device that's available through Joe and his channel, Streaming CT. But in reality, the bonding and SRT signals going through the web, putting things in the cloud for editing, all the other NDI, all the other ways of sending video around, Zoom, ISO, all of that stuff are things that I'm going to be looking more into this year, especially as I get ready to build Studio B. But there's a lot of great videos out there. We'll just have to see how that whole scenario plays out with HyperDecks, how that plays out with streaming bridges, how that plays out with all of the other devices that Blackmagic Design has. SRT is one more way of transmitting information through the web, and evidently a little bit more reliable. Yeah, the matrix on the right and the matrix on the top, in reality, I agree with that, Joe. They're some of the best deals. A lot of people don't talk about them. They're not really see a lot of videos online. I think John Barker did a video on it. I know that Photo Joseph did some videos on it. I've done videos on it before in my live streams. I'm working on a video right now. I think I've decided that my new series is going to constantly talk about the ATEM Mini and the Extreme versions as I talk about the new Extreme, just so people will know if they have the Mini, they can't do Super Source. If they have the Mini, they can only do one media player. If they have the Mini, they only have one DVE and one Upstream Key, and they need to have Extremes if they want to do more. But that video, I've got the first video completed and edited, and I have other videos in that series to edit. And the first video is the comparison of the media player between the ATEM Mini and the Extreme. And you'd be surprised at how many different ways you can access a media player and how you can use it and how you find files. So it's a 20-minute long video, and it should be like my other training videos on my channel. It should be very helpful for people that don't know how to use their media player. So. Okay, so one more comment from Joe. You know what would be amazing? An ATEM Extreme with 4 HDMIs and 4 SDIs. Yeah, and I think everybody's put that on their wish list. I think Aaron Parecki did in the day, but that's true. Good to have you, Doc Funk. Says, I never felt happier than when I left the ATEM. They are a pain, overpriced, limited device. I would use a Mac Mini every day and can challenge anyone with it and make headway. So what software are you using with that Mac? And that would be great. Blackmagic Design is not the holy grail. In fact, I had an ATEM Extreme ISO recording fail today. They are for sure budget in the grand scheme of things. Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree. The average device that I was looking at prior to that was going to be over $2,000 to $5,000. And then all of a sudden the ATEM's come out, and it served me great. I haven't had any fail. I have 2 in my studio in case one goes down. I can still go live. I have my ATEM Mini Pro. And I'm considering adding the ATEM Mini Extreme SDI to my studio as well. We will see. That would be before I open up my extra studio, Studio B. Cool. Glad you're still here, David. Sometimes I just feel alone because I'm not looking at the chat. Yeah, Joe, if you have a broken ATEM Mini and you're not sending it back, I think I saw one video here on YouTube that had an ATEM Mini being broken down. So might be something for you guys to consider. Okay, next week I'm going to have 2 Elgato prompters in the studio. That should be fun. I get to unbox both of them. I already unboxed one of them. I'm going to unbox the other one prior to being live, but I am going to have one set up with a webcam and one set up with a regular camera. I may do that on the table. I may have them pointed at each other so one camera can read the teleprompter on the other camera. Haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do that video, but that's supposed to be coming. Again, only got it because I'm missing one of my rings was doubled, and so I'm missing one of my step-up rings. It comes with 9. I only got 8 plus an extra. So that's why they're sending me a new one, and it has been shipped. So at first they told me like December, then they told me that they didn't have any supply. Then 2 days later, they told me it was shipped. But I've heard other people say they're not getting theirs until next month. We'll see. But I have one coming. So, okay, well, I think that's it in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining me live tonight. We're going to be back again next week, like I said. I am going to do a post show in the next couple of weeks. I haven't decided which one. I am going to talk about some behind the scene things here that don't really have to do with my regular channel. Some of it will coincide, like I have some of my Batman 1966 collection up there. I've added to that this year. I'm definitely going to have that stuff on display in that post show. I'm going to bring Ratso in the post show. So if you enjoy seeing me do ventriloquism, I'm going to continue keeping Ratso a part of the post show. Occasionally you'll see Ratso in my main live stream. I have a video going up this week. It's on the media player. Should be very thorough. I have my flying arrows in that video. If you've seen any of my videos, so I'm known for my flying arrows. And I'm trying to tone that down a little bit, but trying to be really, really thorough. And I do repeat a couple things in that video just to make sure it's drone home to anybody that's learning how to use these devices for the very first time. Will I ever use something else to live stream? Yeah, I live streamed this year from my Cam Link. I did 4K through OBS this year. I streamed from OBS, I believe, this year. So I'm willing to try other things. I've considered getting a YOLO box and using it in the studio and remotely. I've even considered doing something crazy like Joe just did on his channel and building myself a DeckLink box. I know that there's Epiphan things you can stream from. There's other devices coming out that are like ATEMs. So again, I'm not saying that using a Blackmagic design device is the best scenario because obvious it's not. And even thinking a web presenter HD and a web presenter 4K would be quality, focused on one good signal in and great streaming out. But I know many people that have had trouble with the HD and the 4K web presenters. So keep that in mind. Again, I'm not just saying that that's the only way to stream. Canon isn't the only camera I believe in. I love Panasonic. I love Sony cameras. I've used Sony's to do installs at local venues. So just because I have all of my Canon lenses and my Canon cameras does not mean that I wouldn't, in a minute, take a Sony if you want to donate it for me or purchase a Sony camera because I love what they're doing. I've used some Panasonics. I used some Lumix in some of the places that I've gone. They already had Lumix cameras, so we added other ones. So again, when it comes to client, people trust dedicated hardware solutions for switching and recording. If you have a client pay you $20K, would you use OBS? No, I would not use OBS under any circumstances for my clients that are trying to live stream. They want limited issues. So far, my experience has been either recording a service through an ATEM and uploading it later. Some of my clients record to one ATEM and stream to Facebook, and then they take that high-resolution file, HD, off of their ATEM and upload that to YouTube. I have clients that don't stream live, but they record on their devices, and then they delay that event a week. I have clients that produce videos and podcasts from their ATEMs and then edit them down later, multiple cameras. So there's lots of different uses for these devices, but I am mainly recommending hardwired devices that are designed specifically for encoding. Remember, heat is an issue, all of those things. The power, Cleaning the power to get good audio in an ATEM is crucial. So make sure you use something that will clean up your power when you plug it in. Don't just plug it into a wall because you might have hums and issues. And make sure you're using a high quality audio interface and you're not just using microphones plugged into the back of an ATEM. I don't think that is a good solution unless you just need a lapel for a quick move away from your desk like I've done before. And the new Rode microphone will Bluetooth into a RØDECaster Pro version 2 with the firmware updates. So I'm probably going to add a Rode mic to my kit instead of just my DJI mics because I love the idea of just putting it on and it being Bluetooth into my RØDECaster Pro. So, okay, let's see. Anything else good here? Thanks, Hank, for coming tonight. Thank you a bunch for being here. Elgato couldn't just send you the ring. No. They said they had no supplies. So I don't know how that works, right? You get all these rings made and then you divide them up like they did in mine. You try to do one of each size and then you send it out. They said they had no resources. They were so far behind with pre-orders that they had no resources. Just send me a step-up ring. I thought it was crazy, but I'll take it any way I can get it. I want that 67 mil step-up ring. These are unique to design for the prompter. Again, the prompter slides on the slot. So like other step-up rings I have threads to put in another filter. It goes from a smaller to a larger filter. So you could just buy one circular polarizer filter or one ND variable filter, like a big 82, and then step it down with rings to fit your lens. So that's what normally you use step-up rings for, but now they're using them for things like screwing this in and having a prompter slide on it. So, in fact, I will have 16 or 18 rings when that gets here. And so, yeah, and I wish I could just send it on to someone that ordered a prompter, but it wouldn't have all the rings in it. It would have 2 of one size and missing one size. So, yeah, flying arrows is a video thing. So I make my own arrows. I should show you this video, Joe, because you'll get a kick out of it before we go. What time is it? Yeah, I got to get out of here. But it's Joe. So I'm going to do this. So while Premiere Pro is loading up, hopefully I have all the drives plugged in. I need to have plugged in media player video. I'll give you guys a sneak peek into this video. What is the deal here? Media player recording. Oh, you know what? I can't show you this because I'm recording to the disk I need. I'm using the same disk I'm recording to tonight to edit this video, so it's looking for all the files. My bad. But anyway, so I design an arrow in Adobe Premiere, fill it with yellow. Sometimes I put an outline on it, and then I use the ability to fly it around the screen in my videos to point things out. So if I wanted to point here or point here, I have flying arrows in my videos, and I wish I was able to show you that. In fact, I need to plug it in now after we go off the air so that I don't screw up my Adobe file. So, oh, you aren't returning the first one. You're keeping both. No, I am returning the first one. So I was just hoping that they could tell me which one of my clients that ordered one I could send this to, that they've been waiting for theirs. But no, I have a return code, and I have to mail it. I think I have X amount of days to mail it back. But why I have them both here, I am going to fire them both up, and I am going to use both here in the studio before I send one of them back, and I get to choose which one. What a tease. Yeah, sorry. I guess I could do this. Let's just do this. I'm going to stop recording. Stop recording. I'm going to pull the drive. I'm going to plug it in. It's probably going to screw up everything because it's a hard drive on my laptop. I'm going to locate. It found the files. It takes a while for Adobe Premiere to load up. So if you guys want to leave or wait, you're about to see a preview of my new video. Let me turn some audio on while I'm waiting. Laptop. Is audio follow video? Still loading. Loaded. Let me find a flying arrow here. Okay. Let's pull this over. I'm going to increase the size of the play head. So I'm actually taking you guys inside Adobe Premiere Pro, where I do all my editing. And I'm going to go to me and a laptop. I think this audio will work. We'll see. I'm going to hit play. Do you guys have audio? Let me look. I don't think you have audio. I don't have time to set it up, but that logo, do you see that arrow fly? So let's show that one more time. Flying arrow. Upstream keys are on the left of the transition bar, and downstream keys are on the right side of the transition bar, and there you go. This video is pretty well all the way done. I need to watch it a couple more times, make sure there's no spelling errors, and then I'm going to make it live here on the channel. It's a part of the education videos I post on here. How do you use the media player? What's the difference between the ATEM Mini and the ATEM Mini Extreme media player, and how do you access it? How do you use all the windows? How do you bring it on the air? Even the buttons on the front of the ATEM devices, how do you use those buttons? I demo even the buttons, so I hope you guys will enjoy that video when it's released. So, okay, so for Joe, I did that. Just realized there is some noise in the audio tonight. Not loud, but watch the replay. Oh, well, great. That's always great news that there's noise in my audio. Testing 1, 2. Yeah, I hear a little noise. I think it's in the room. I think it's the fans in the room. I can't quiet all of those. That's what it sounds like because I've heard it before when I've had it. So I have the room semi-treated, but I have air conditioning that blows in here. I don't turn it off because it's the air for the whole house. I have my PC. It's got real hot in here, so the fans kick on, and my ears tune out a lot of those high frequencies, so I have to use the headphones to hear it. And I also watch an EQ because when you get older, your ears begin to go. So yeah, I'm known for flying arrows. I have some Cherokee Indian in my background. And with that, my name is Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios, and I'll see you guys very soon in another video. Until then, subscribe. Please like this video and help me grow my channel. And thank you so much for being with me, guys. I absolutely appreciate it. And I hope all this hard work helps you out. See you later.